Owning a business also means that you own the way that you show up, you lead, and you structure your work behind the scenes. Today, I'm joined by Amy Sussex, the host of You Are Your Business. She joins me and we talk about what it's like to actually build a business that supports your life, not the other way around. She shares how years of hard work pushed her to claim her voice, start her podcast for genuine connection, and rethink what success means as a mom and an entrepreneur. You'll hear how she mapped out 40 plus steps in her podcast workflow, simplified her systems, and now uses those insights to finally outsource her editing. This episode dives into practical strategies such as onboarding, communication, money dates, documenting processes, while still centering joy and sustainability in your business. Amy also talks about how she uses communities like threads and podcast guesting to build relationships instead of chasing leads. So if you're a podcaster or a service provider who's wearing all the hats and on the verge of burnout, this one is for you. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. Hey, Amy, thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I am so excited to hear about you and your podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Haley. I'm so excited to be here. I love the power of, I think we connected through threads. So yes. I just love the power of social media and like connecting with other amazing entrepreneurs and like-minded people.
Me too. Threads is so much fun. I love it over there.
I know. I think I saw that they were going to like maybe do DMs. I was like, no, please don't. Like, I like the fact that there isn't the DM feature on there right now.
Yeah. Or hashtags or anything.
I know.
I love that.
The simplicity of like actually a space to like connect with people genuinely.
100%. Yeah. I'm obsessed with that. But cool. I'm glad the threads brought us together.
Yes.
So I have to know, what is your go-to coffee order since we are in the Podcast Cafe?
So I don't actually drink coffee, which is hilarious, but I do drink tea. So I love, honestly, Starbucks. I just always get like a black green tea and add peach to it. It's pretty simple. Yeah, I know. I wish I liked coffee. I tried it. I don't. And it's funny because my friends and family make fun of me because I can't drink warm drinks. Like my body just doesn't like it. So
I'm the same way.
Oh my gosh.
I get so hot.
Yes, same. So I always am having like a iced tea in like the wintertime as well too. So yeah. I'm a year-round icer.
I love I don't know. I feel like it just makes me uncomfortable and warm and like I hate being sweaty. So it's it's not for me.
The same.
Well, I'm excited to dive into your podcast and more about what you do today. So your podcast is called You Are Your Business. And I'm really interested to hear how that title came to be.
So interesting enough, I had actually started a podcast a couple years ago called Living Your Cause because I was going through like NLP hypnosis and was really learning more about how like things happen for us and like our perspective as opposed to like doom and gloom and the world's against me kind of thing. So I had done that podcast. I only did like 10 episodes and then I stopped it. I was a typical like dropout podcast that everyone tends to hear if you don't have a plan, right? And then it was 2023 and I had a really challenging year personally and professionally with like the work that I was doing and people were dying in our face, like just all these crazy, my kids were sick, like just all these crazy things. And I wanted more community and connection. And throughout that, I realized I'm the leader of my business. So if I'm not showing up in that space and I'm not communicating that way, and I was like, at the end of the day, yes, I can like have help in my business, but like I represent my business as a solo entrepreneur. So it just kind of I don't know. It just came to me. I was like, you are your business. And I was like,
Yeah.
it has a ring to it. It just seemed like a natural fit. I was also had a corporate job before. So a lot of times in corporate, we have like that 9 to 5 mindset. So then switching from that to like an entrepreneur. So I was like, again, it just gives an opportunity to talk about so many different things under that like umbrella as well
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you remember the exact moment that you were like, this podcast has to happen? Like, I can't just keep thinking about it. Like, it has to come to life.
I do. And I was just sitting in my office one day thinking like, I have a voice. I'm not using my voice. I'm raising 2 young girls and I want to be able to share my voice and I have skills. And so I was like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I need to do this. I want to do this. And I think the other piece too was, so it was like I mentioned, I kind of started in 2023, like doing the recordings, but I didn't release it until 2024. But I forget how old my oldest was at that time, but my youngest was like just over a year. And so I was like, I'm craving more community. I can't go to all these networking events that are happening and stuff like that. But I'm like, you know what I can do is I can have a conversation with someone. And that just felt good to me. That felt like I just want to talk to other people about how life is going, how business is going. And like, I can do that. So I really started it from a place of like, no pressure. Let's just have a conversation and see where it takes
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that mindset. And I love how you're doing it for your daughters. That's the reason I love podcasting, and I mostly help women start podcasts because we all have voices and we all need to share them, and podcasting is such a great way for us to build our community around something that we love talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you help people in your business with plan, strategy. How did you bring your expertise in the business side over to your podcast? And your podcast and your business have overlaps, but they are different topics.
Yes, they are. And I was doing that intentionally because I'm like, I don't like, there is times I can talk about operations and have strategy and having a plan and the importance of that. But I was like, I don't want to talk about that all the time because I am
Yeah.
a multifaceted person with different interests, different personalities, and different interests. And so, really, for my own business, and when I was doing this podcast, to be honest, I just created like a plan about 3 months ago because I was feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, what is my process for this? And because I was just kind of like randomly doing things and then you're storing everything in your head, which I'm like, my clients do. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to actually be like walking the talk because I think we get caught in that sometimes of just doing things, but not actually like taking a moment to like write down what we do. So I did what I tell my clients to do and I wrote down every single thing I was doing from like start to finish, from like sending someone a link to sign and like to do a recording to the podcast being published. And I think it was like 40 steps or something like that. And I'm like, this is insane. The fact that I'm like storing again all this in my head, but then now it's giving me structure because I'm like, now I know it takes me an hour to like get the producing part of it out and done with, as opposed to like I build it up in my head. And people do that as well too. You think it's going to take you like 5 hours. You're like, actually, now that I've done this, I know, and then I can start to eliminate some of the steps that aren't really necessary anymore. So I think the first thing that's been really helpful is having a plan, having a process, having steps in place. So then that way we can actually do the work and then not feel so overwhelmed by like the work that's getting done too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you do to, write that all out? And what do you tell your clients to do when they have big tasks like that?
Yeah. So I really just use like a Google Doc, honestly, to like write it out. I think sometimes we make things bigger in our head than they need to be. So
100%, yes.
and we think we need all the fancy tools. And that's also stuff that I talk to my clients about too, because there's so many different, like there's Google, there's Trello, there's ClickUp, there's Asana, like there's Google Sheets, like there's all these different platforms that people can use for their business, which is wonderful. But really, if at the end of the day, you're not going to use them, it's not really helpful for you to be like doing it. So for me, the simplest thing was, okay, I'm just going to open a Google Doc, I'm going to write it all out. And then the next time I go to do this podcast, let me see if I'm doing all those steps. Okay, that's actually what I'm doing. I use ClickUp in my business. So I have all my, guest names, and then I actually have a checklist. So then now I know where I'm at as far as like each person's stage for like the podcast. So really, I do a lot of that with my clients as well. I'm like, okay, let's first get it all out. because we have no flow, we have no fun, we have no creativity because we've got everything stored in our head right now. And so by us getting that out, then we can actually look at it from like a logical point of like, okay, what makes sense? What's not making sense? What's time consuming? What can you keep? What can you delegate? What can we eliminate? And then it just, again, creates more like flow and ease in our business. And then to have different offers or like do different things because we're not having it all stored in our head.
I love that because structure can really create just like the freedom that you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I like one of the things I really like to share too is like we are the biggest system in our business. So if you are like on the verge of burnout and stress and overwhelm, it's because you haven't, created some processes in your business. You haven't actually maybe time managed. You also maybe haven't actually created space. So like giving yourself that space of like, hey, what do really lights me up in my day? Maybe it's walking my kids to school. Maybe it's going to the gym for an hour. But like we forget sometimes to do those things that we actually like to do because we're so focused on growing the business and the day-to-day weeds of everything. So really one of the things I like to help with as well is like, let's go back to like, how do you have fun? How are you enjoying your life? Because you didn't create this business to burn out and to create essentially like a job for yourself. You created it out of a passion, out of a desire. So like, let's get back to that aspect of getting you like creative and fun again too.
Yeah, because just like the name of your podcast, you are your business. So if your business is a big whirlwind of like mess and all of that, I know at times in my business, just when you're scaling, there's times where it's stressful and then there's times where it's, go with the flow. And definitely that does translate to other parts of my life, as hard as I try for it not to. It happens.
Definitely does. And it seems like when things are going well at home, sometimes it's like, okay, the business is kind of crazy, or like vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you have some stability of like processes in place, then it makes it, when something does kind of blow up, not as like daunting for yourself and even your nervous system as well too.
Yeah. So what are some other ways? I know that in your podcast, you speak about setting boundaries, wearing all the hats and helping women not, become burnt out. Yeah. So what are some of the conversations you're having on your podcast that your audience is loving?
Yeah. So a lot of the conversations are people being actually like inspired by someone stepping out of their comfort zone and trying something new and doing something different, or it's actually just getting started. So like a lot of my listeners are newer entrepreneurs, or they've been in business for a couple of years and they're looking to like make a transition. So a lot of the stuff that we are talking about is, how to maybe do some marketing, how to do things a little bit differently. And my audience is really loving the fact that like, they're seeing the proof. If someone else can do this, I'm capable of doing this as well too. And I think so much of that is needed in this world because we get into, especially with social media, we get stuck into like comparison or imposter syndrome and, all these fears pop up. But if you have someone else that you are talking to and you're like, oh my gosh, they struggle with this too. I feel seen, I feel heard, and I see that they're working through it. I can do that too. So I think like a lot of my listeners really love that. And then as well of knowing like success is different for everyone. And I think so often we put monetary value, and yes, we're all here to make money. That's amazing. That's great. But really it's like, what is your version of success? Yes. And I think that that's really been like a lot of the conversations and shifting for people as well too, because, Sally on the internet's talking about her success is, working on a beach in Bali. Wonderful. That's not the season of life I'm in right now. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So like going to the beach, working all the time, not going to happen.
Yeah.
But my version of success is like, I get to walk my kids to school. If they have a school, function, I get to go to that. I don't have to ask for time off now. If they're sick, I can balance between my husband and I of like, okay, what are we doing? So I think that's one of the key things that really people love to talk about is like, what is your version of success, and really making that happen.
Yeah. I love that. And there's power in hearing other people's stories that really builds the community aspect of, oh, that's what's happening with them. Like, this is what's happening with me. Like, we're all a community together.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is maybe it's going to take some time to find your community. So when I first started, I started with a wellness business back in 2018, and I was doing a lot of things locally, which was wonderful. but I kind of had felt like I had to go to like a couple different networking events and a couple different things to like find people that maybe resonated with me a little bit more or were in like a similar lifestyle as myself. So now I go to actually networking events. They're like an hour away from my city, but I resonate with so many of the women there, and we've developed such deep connections. So there's nothing against people in my own community, but like I just felt a deeper connection, and we support each other in a lot different way compared to the other ones. We're like, how many leads did you get? How many referrals did you get? I'm like, that's not how I want to build my business, is by forcing business on people. I want to build it through relationships and community and connection. So, you know, for anyone listening, you know, it's okay to switch and find other communities as well too, because you're going to find the people that resonate with you, and you'll just grow more, and you'll be able to step into your own confidence in a version of yourself that's elevated because you're around people that are like-minded and that suit you.
Exactly. And by having a platform where you're sharing your voice and your message and your thoughts,
Yes.
that attracts a community too. I mean, I'm in Seattle, so there's a large entrepreneurial community here, which is great. I go to a ton of events, but I always try to think bigger, and the people I connect with through my podcast is just great because they're aligned. They love podcasting.
Yes.
I love podcasting.
Yes.
Like, it's great.
Absolutely. And that's such a good point too. And, you know, when I started my podcast, I started it for fun, just a way to like connect with people. But I've actually like been making sales off my podcast, which wasn't the intention of it. But then I'm like, yay, this is amazing, because this is, again, another stream of revenue that I wasn't expecting. But like, of course, great, because I'm in business. So I'm not always like, it's a long game, I think, as well too, that people don't always realize for some of this stuff too.
100%. It is definitely a long game.
Yeah.
So in what ways has podcasting like really helped you build these deeper connections? Is there a moment that reminded you like, oh, this is working, other than, you know, when you started making sales?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't even know, it was like an exact specific date. I think it's just like those stackable moments that I was going for a walk one day and I realized like, I love what I get to do. I love that I'm talking to someone, and a lot of times it's stuff that happens sometimes behind the scenes too, of like, hey, thanks. Through that conversation, I realized that like, maybe I should be putting more boundaries in place and like not answering a call from a client at 9:00 at night because I feel like I need to, right? So I think it's been really like those moments of being able to have those conversations with people, and yeah, it's just really stacked up. I think sometimes in business, it feels like we're like going up a hill, and then you're like feeling like you get knocked down. But really with the podcasting, it's like my goal was to connect with people. My goal was to have conversations with people. My goal was to like help people in a way that I could with using my voice and other people's voices and giving them a platform to share their voice. And I think it just, I had that realization like, oh my gosh, like this is fun. Like I'm loving this. This is great. And then after, and I think one of the moments too was when someone afterwards was like, hey, I'm wanting to like upgrade my onboarding process. Can I hire you? I was like, oh yeah, you can. Absolutely. Like that was never my intention. We didn't even have like a conversation about that, but just from like them getting to know me and us just me giving them some tips on like things within their own business, that led to somebody wanting to hire me. So
yeah. It opens doors for sure.
It does, definitely, for sure.
So you have 62 episodes at this time of recording, which is fantastic, especially since you mentioned your last podcast stopped at 10. Like, that's incredible that you're at 62 now. And so when you look for guests, because I know you do a few like short episodes where you're teaching on ops and business optimization, when you're looking for guests, where do you look and what really stands out to you?
Yeah, so it's actually been a lot of like community people that like I've been having conversations with, or it's been like people on threads saying like, hey, I'd love to talk about marketing, or I'd love to talk about visibility. I'm like, cool. And obviously you do a little like creeping of our own kind of thing to make sure people are a good fit. But I think really for me, it's just been giving people a platform that they don't actually have their own. And I think it's like, I just did a podcast interview last week with a woman who's like, I think I want to get my own podcast. I was like, please do. I'm like, this is amazing, because you're able to like connect with other people, and we make it into this big scary thing, as you probably know with your own clients. They're like, this seems overwhelming. But so really it's communities that I've been a part of. I've been to like different retreats and different networking events and different events like women events kind of thing. And it just through those conversations. And I've been like, hey, would you like to be a guest? Or they're like, can you be a guest on mine? And yeah, it's just been organically that way. Like I haven't really done a lot of advertising. I think I've done like one post on like Instagram asking if there was anybody looking to be a guest. I did that about 6 months ago. And I had like 10 people message. So I was like, okay, I don't need to do that, which is great. But yeah, and I think, to be honest, now I'm trying to be a little bit more like intentional and mindful. I think when I was first starting, it was like, I just want to create consistency and I just want to get myself out there and I want to make sure that like I'm keeping true to my word. And I know that this is like a long game and I know that there's so much I want to do with this, but really I just want to be able to show up every week. And so I planned, like I had a podcast episode, like recording with somebody like once a week because it was holding me accountable because I knew the mistakes I made with the last one. I had no accountability. So by this way of me scheduling once a week recording, I was like, that is giving me that accountability. It was exhausting. So now I've switched and I have specific podcast days, but that's what I needed to be able to continue to keep going too.
Yeah. And that's great that you know that about yourself. And I think that the audience can take that if that resonates with them. Definitely. Like maybe it is one recording a week. When you plan for guests, how much planning goes into it?
Yeah, so I probably spend about an hour ahead of time because I'm looking at like, one, I have people fill out a form. So like I look at the form and stuff like that. And then I'll look at their socials. And then to be honest, I put a lot of stuff in like chat. I'll be like, what are their like socials? What have they said on the form? And then I'm like, here's some questions I want to ask. And then chat gives me a couple other questions to ask. And then I kind of just tailor it to like my words and what I would say. So I know some people are against AI, but like I found it to be super helpful when it comes to like getting organized and prepared ahead of time for the interview.
Yeah, no, I love it too, honestly.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's super helpful.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, quote unquote, like we have to be using, well, we don't have to, but it does make it easier. It really like, if you want to get your voice out there, I think that this time of using AI when it's still being built is crucial.
I agree. And it also like you're working smarter too. Like I would love to say I could read through every blog somebody did and like listen to all your podcast episodes, but I'm like, I just don't have that capability and that time to do that. So like AI is like pulling things out that I'm asking it to that's helpful for me then to tailor towards our interview.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that being said, I want to get into the ops side of business too, because that's what you do. Yes. So you help women wear all the hats, but also take hats off.
Yes.
So what's a hat that you proudly like refuse to wear anymore now that you know how to optimize business?
That is a really good question. To be honest, I just have hired someone for my own podcasting. So I feel like that's one of the things is like the editing side of things. I'm like, you know what? I know how to do it, but I think it's time now to like send that part out because it's like, I can't be wearing all the hats for everything. And that just seemed like a natural progression because I'm in an upscale of my podcasting. So that, but really when it comes to like my clients, to be honest, a lot of people started a business, they grew and they scaled really, really quickly, but they don't actually know how to manage people. And so I come from a background of I've been basically a manager since I was 16 years old, and every job I've ever worked, I've somehow came into that leadership role. So it's helping people see like visibility, and it's helping them to manage people, and it's helping them to get organized because, some clients, like one client specifically right now, they're communicating in Slack. They've got ClickUp, they've got Google Drive, they've got email, they've got like all these different places, and and they're using WhatsApp as well too. So nobody knows where to communicate and what goes where. And so again, it was one of those things that like it worked when they first started out and they started hiring on like a few more people, and then they would just slowly, before you know it, you're using all these different systems. So I'm like, okay, let's take a look here. How can we make this simpler for you and your team so everyone, one, knows exactly what they need to be doing, two, knows where to be putting stuff, and then three, knows how to communicate to you. Because if they're sending you an email but then also sending you a Slack message, like no wonder your email's out of control, and no wonder you're like not checking emails because you're just don't even want to like look at it. So so that's definitely one of the things too that I love to help people with. But to be honest, even in my own business, I know there's more hiring I can do, but I think, so I mentioned before, I had a wellness business that I worked at, helped doing like Indian head massage, reflexology, like just all like very natural ways of like helping people to like de-stress. And really, I realized it was something that I needed at the time, which is always interesting.
Isn't it crazy how that happens?
I know. It's like, it's so funny because it's like really you're doing it for people, but then like you have this awakening. You're like, oh crap, I actually really needed this for me too. But to be honest, in that business, I hired really too quickly, too fast. And then COVID happened. And I also had built up this story in my head that I wasn't a legit business unless I had a bunch of people working for me. So I had to like debunk that story, make a lot of different shifts. And then I switched over to like my consulting business in 2023. And so I've been slower hiring this time around, to be honest. So maybe that's my own things I need to like work through as well too. But I think that there's a time and a place for hiring as well too. So once, and that's why I said I started with hiring someone up for my podcast, because I'm like, I know how to do this, but like it's time now to like move on to the next person that can help me with this.
Yeah. And podcasting, it's great. It gives you a lot of like marketing assets and all of that, but it is time consuming. Like I'm the first to admit that. Like I even posted on Instagram today. I was like, if you're a business owner, you're not a podcast editor. Like that's just what it is right there. So it is a great thing to be able to outsource. So congrats on making that hire.
Thank you. And I think you make a good point too, because as businesses, we're wearing all the hats, but like we were never taught like how do you market yourself, how to do sales, like any of that really. Essentially, most people just started a business from like a desire and a passion.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So what are some ops myths that you're tired of hearing or that you wish that you want to debunk?
That is also a good question too.
Maybe if you want to give like an example of like how ops plays a role in business for anyone who is like new to it.
Yeah, I think, well, and that is a good point too, because I've had people that have reached out that have like recently started a business and are looking to hire because let me backtrack here. So last year I interviewed 30 entrepreneurs because I was trying to like, what is an offer? I need to want to like shift my offers a bit. So I interviewed 30 people, all stages of entrepreneurship, some just beginning, some have been there for like 30 years. And my first question to them was like, do you have systems and processes in place? And out of those 30 people, how many do you think did?
2.
Yes.
Honestly.
You nailed it. You nailed it. So yes,
so funny.
2 people. Out of those 2 people, they started from day one in their business because they knew when it was time to grow and scale that them having all of this in place would help them go faster. Because what's happening is people are growing and scaling so quickly, which is amazing. But now you're backtracking because you're trying to put out fires, and maybe you hired someone to do something like tech wise, but you don't actually yourself know how to do it. And then that person leaves. And now you've got this gap in your business that you don't know how to post on social media because someone else was doing it for you. And so now your business is at a standstill until you hire somebody else. So really starting from day one, when you're doing something, write down what you're doing. So I guess the one thing that really drives me nuts is when people are like, I don't want to do that, or I don't have time to do that. I get it. Nobody has time. We're all busy doing something, but you're going to thank yourself for taking that time, that energy, and doing it now, because in say 6 months or 2 years from now, when you want to do that hire, you're now going back and going, what do I do again? How do I do this? And the other part is too, you can start to see, what am I paying for? I kind of shared with you, I'm looking at maybe changing like where I'm recording inside of like my own podcast, but it's like, you can now look and see like, okay, I'm using like 5 different softwares that do the same thing. Does this actually make sense? Because you have all that data and that information in front of you. And the other part I would want to debunk too is people make operations and like their business mean something, that they're a bad person. So like, I didn't get this done, this means that I failed. No, it doesn't. Like we really need to look at it from like, look at your numbers, whatever you're tracking, whatever your process is, it doesn't mean anything about you. You're just looking at it from like the data, and then you can make decisions based on that data of what you want to do forward, or maybe you want to eliminate.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And bringing it back to the podcast, like you shared in the beginning, you wrote
Yeah.
out everything that you were doing. What other processes do you have in place for your podcast? And how maybe is that changing now that you have a podcast editor?
Yeah. So the change this happened, like I'm going to be relaunching my podcast. I think it's a little bit of a different format. I'm kind of playing that out right now as things are
Okay,
happening
fun.
for the fall. But really, yeah, I think some of the changing is going to be like from my conversation with them is I'm just basically going to be showing up and doing the recording, and then they're taking care of the rest of it, which I think as an entrepreneur is really helpful. And that's kind of what we look for a lot of times. It's like, great, I know how to do all this, but now it's like, I don't have to think about this. I can just show up and
Yes.
do it. And like, I'm sure your clients are like, amazing. I don't have to think about anything. You've like taken this over
100%,
for me.
yeah.
Yes. So definitely that's been a big thing too.
What other processes do you have in
Yes.
place?
Yeah. So the big one I do is onboarding. I find because a lot of times people are worried about, I want to be making sure that I'm engaging and showing how wonderful my business is. But a lot of people are forgetting they're actually dropping the ball when it comes time for like, okay, a client's paid. Now what? So, I have some clients that are offer digital courses. Great. Are they actually getting the email? Are they actually getting access to the course? Or if someone's working with you one-on-one and you're service based, are they getting the link to like book a call? So like really for myself, I have like my own onboarding process in place because I think that's really key. And then even from like the financial side, like I do money dates once a week of like, okay, what's coming in, what's coming out. And just again, you have like a bigger picture of like what's happening. And then I was able to realize I'm like, I'm actually paying for like a membership. And there was another tech thing that I was using that I'm like, I haven't used this in 6 months. So I'm
Yeah,
actually going to stop using these because it doesn't make sense. But I wouldn't have been able to make that decision if I hadn't been doing these money dates and having this awareness as well too.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. And with the time that you're saving from handing off your podcast, what are you going to do with that time?
Post more on social media.
Yes. Okay,
I
I
feel
love
like,
that.
yes, because I think that's been one of the things that I haven't been consistent with is showing up in the way that I want to be showing up with on socials and really using my voice. So that's going to give me more time to be able to connect, to be able to share, to be able to, articulate more of what I do and how I can help people and get people to know me a bit more, right? So I think, yeah, going back on
Absolutely.
socials again. So I
Yeah.
think, I'm sure as you know too, like you can only do so many things, right? So there's sometimes things get dropped. So this is now going to give me that time and that space.
I love that. And yeah, going back to what I said, like business owners are not podcast editors, so there's
Yeah.
much better ways to utilize your time than in most cases running your podcast. So
Yes,
I'm really excited to
absolutely.
see the shift in your business, and I'm gonna have to have you back on in a
Oh,
few
that'd be
months and
amazing.
see
Yes.
how all of that plays out. But I have some rapid fire questions I want to get into
Okay.
about your podcast, your business, all of it.
Okay.
So, my first one is, what is your favorite podcast listening platform?
Oh my gosh.
Like Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
No, it's Overcast is the one that I
Oh,
listen to. I'm looking on my
nice.
phone. Yeah, it's Overcast is the platform that I love to listen to podcasts from.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
How'd you find out about that one?
I think it was from like a friend, like
Yeah.
8 years ago that she was showing me like a podcast she was listening to, and then I was like, "Where are you listening to that?" And then I just downloaded on my phone, and I haven't taken it off since. So
Okay.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Do you have any podcast listening pet peeves?
So yeah, I guess when like the audio is cut out sometimes, like someone's like leaving, like it's probably even for like my own sometimes if you can tell who's like doing it professionally and who's like editing themselves. So like you'll go to like listen. I've seen people have like audios cut out, so that's been frustrating. Or even like you can tell that a clip has been snipped, but like it doesn't flow because you're
Mm-hmm.
like they're talking about one thing and then they just flip into like something else.
Yeah.
So I think some of those things, but I guess that's more like my technical brain thinking of those side of things. So, but yeah,
No.
there's nothing really that stands out and from aside from those things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are good ones. Those are good
Yeah.
ones. What podcast do you listen to and recommend others listen to?
Yeah. So I love Lori Harder and Chris Harder. So Lori's is Earn Your Happy and Chris Harder is the Chris Harder Show. So I've just really loved listening to them and found them really inspirational. I started listening to Lori's podcast, oh gosh, I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago. And I just loved, she was like a small town girl, grew up like working for her parents. I have like similar story to that. So I think I just really resonated with that. And then I've seen like how big she's like built up this. So I think, again, I talked about earlier, like the proof that things are possible. Yeah. So yeah. And then Chris, like his podcast used to be For the Love of Money. So I really appreciated that because I grew up with my mom having a small business and I was always told we don't make money in business. So listening to Chris really helped to shift a lot of those like beliefs, and him sharing his own story of like how, you know, his business crashed, but he's been able to like pull himself back up too. So yeah.
Yeah. Podcasts can be powerful in those moments where we need those mindset shifts.
Absolutely. And I think I love it too, because they'll go back and be like, look at where I started and like, look where I am now. So I even look at that from like my own podcast. You probably look at yours as well. Like, look at how I started the conversations I was having to where I am now, and like the type of leadership I'm stepping into too.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to see. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2018, and like,
that's amazing.
The difference between then and now. And I didn't have my business back in 2018. I didn't start this till 2020, but still I don't know. It's like kind of like a time capsule that you get to go listen to, even if you're just doing it for yourself or for friends or for just the joy of podcasting, and you don't want to put like production into it. You just want to do it for fun. I think it's still a great way to see your growth throughout the years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So just 2 last questions for you. And thanks so much for sharing everything so far. I'm like loving this conversation. So what is one piece of advice you'd like to leave podcasters with?
Having fun. I know I kind of talked about that before, but like, again, we get so focused on the operation side and growing your business and the sales, but like, go back to having fun again. And that could be in business or in life. So really making sure you're doing things that are lighting you up, because when you're taking that time away and doing, whether it's going on a vacation or like going to the gym or reading or like doing something that fills your cup, like your life is more fulfilled. Your business then shows from it because you're doing something that's more fun. And I'll give a quick example. I had a client who was ready to close down her business because she was just feeling so overwhelmed by it. And I said to her, when was the last time you had fun in your business? And she's like, when I was giving audio trainings to people. I was like, cool, go do that. She's been doing that now for a year and has 100 people in her membership. So again, really important to look at like, what are you doing for fun? And then doing more of that.
Yeah, because that ties back to you are your business.
Absolutely.
So my last question for you is, what has podcasting taught you about yourself?
Yeah, it's taught me, oh God, that's a really good question, to just get out there and use my voice more. So I think I've always been so hesitant to like share my thoughts or my opinions about things, because we grow up in a world sometimes where you're like playing small. So I think it's really given me that platform and taught me that to use my voice, because I mentioned before, like for my own children. And it's also taught me like it's okay to try, and it's okay to shift, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to do things differently. And one conversation you're having today, it's okay if I don't want to have that type of conversation again in a year from now. So I think it's really given me that space to like grow and evolve.
I love that. I love that. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I have loved this conversation, and I can't wait to get this out there so everyone can learn from you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here.
Oh, I should ask you, how can people connect with you?
They can find me at amy.sussex on Instagram. That's normally where I hang out most of the time. And then my podcast, as you mentioned, is You Are Your Business. So they can tune in on any platform to that as well, too.
Perfect. And all those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey, and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production, or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.